Welcome. I'm Lee Cowan, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. Emma Stone stars in a fantastical retelling of Frankenstein as a deceased woman brought back to life with the brain of a baby in Poor Things. She found portraying her character, Bella, who goes through a rapid evolution from child to adult, to be quite the challenge. And she told our Tracy Smith that how her lifelong struggle with anxiety actually makes her a better actor.
Now, have you figured out how to kind of channel it for good? Is that possible? If it is, please tell me. Is there a way to channel anxiety for good?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Anxiety is like, I feel so lucky to be
anxious.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think it can be sort of like a superpower sometimes.
Later in the show, Emma Stone and Poor Things director Yorgos Lanthimos talk about rehearsing for the film.
Let's talk about the rehearsal process first, because the rehearsal process is not your standard. You get a script, you go over the script. What's your rehearsal process like?
Really exercises and games and theater exercises and games. And I think what we're trying to do is get everybody comfortable with each other, have the actors get to know each other, be able to have fun, try things and make fun of each other without feeling too self-conscious.
Then Conor Knighton takes us to central Ohio, where monumental earth mounds, believed to have been built by indigenous people some 2,000 years ago, have been recognized as the newest UNESCO World Heritage Site here in the U.S.
They've been neglected, and I think now that they're World Heritage Sites, I think we can start overcoming that stigma of just being piles of dirt.
That's a dismissive criticism Lepper has heard before.
The response that I use is the Newark earthworks are piles of dirt in the same way that the Parthenon is a pile of rocks.
The earthworks near Newark, Ohio, are the largest group of earthen enclosures in the world. There's a great circle and an octagon, which could easily hold 4 Roman colosseums.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. Before Emma Stone and director Yorgos Lanthimos teamed up for Poor Things, the pair worked together on 2018's The Favorite. Their strong personalities and artistic trust in one another has now led to another critically acclaimed work. Tracy Smith caught up with them amidst the awards season buzz.
Miss Stone up top! Miss Stone, Miss Stone!
If you've seen Emma Stone on any red carpets lately, and she's kind of hard to miss, you might have noticed a tall bearded man close by. He's Greek film director Yorgos Lanthimos, and it seems he and Stone are, in a professional sense, joined at the hip. How much time have the two of you spent together?
Like hundreds of thousands of hours.
And it's all been magical.
Every second has been like a dream.
This is Bella.
It might be more like a fever dream.
Good evening.
Her brain and her body are not quite synchronized.
Lanthimos directed Stone in her latest film, Poor Things, based on the Alistair Gray novel of the same name. It's an updated take on the Frankenstein story. In this case, a brilliant scientist transplants a baby's brain into a recently deceased woman, Bella. She quickly evolves from being a really big toddler to a really smart adult who learns how to dance, how to read, and how to think.
You're losing some of your adorable way of speaking. I'm a changeable feast, as are all of we. Apparently, according to Emerson.
Critics have called the film fantastical and sumptuous. It's the result of a collaboration between Stone and Lanthimos that they both say could be pretty intense. Do you fight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About what?
We won't right now.
I mean, fight.
No, we don't fight. We really communicate strongly in those moments, but I think we always resolve it relatively quickly.
We can speak to each other freely, so it helps.
Lanthimos breaks down inhibitions by having cast members play theater games in rehearsals rather than just read through the script, and he likes to keep his set quiet. You don't yell, action?
I don't. No, we'd like to ease into things. In general, we try to create this atmosphere which doesn't create tension.
And it all seems to have worked. Lanthimos acquired the rights to Poor Things years ago, but when he tried to sell the idea to studios, he got the cold shoulder. So then he made another film, one with a more conventional artistic vision, 2018's The Favorite, starring Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone.
So my secrets are safe with you?
All of them. Good. Even your biggest secret.
Abigail?
The Favorite was also a favorite at the Oscars, with 10 nominations and 1 win, and Lanthimos' reputation soared.
Did The Favorite give you the juice to be able to do this?
Yeah, people were asking me what it is that you want to do next, and I went like, Poor Things.
I can't let you go.
If you do not, Bella shall turn rotten with hate.
And his patience seems to have paid off. The film has already picked up a number of awards, but Stone says her character was a challenge to play.
Was there ever a moment when you thought, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get this?
Yeah, the whole time. Yes, the entire time.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't think there's been a day on set of any film, of anything I've ever done, where I've been like, I really got it today. That was exactly what it's supposed to be. I mean, I think that's for any creative person. You see something in your head, or you feel like it should be a particular way, and then it has to come out of your mouth and your body and all of that, and it never matches up to what exactly you have in your head. And it's like a constant state of acceptance, and for an actor, hopefully presence.
And the Golden Globe goes to Emma Stone.
Of course, she needn't have worried. The Golden Globe voters thought she got it just right. But Stone told us that worried is her natural state of being, and that she's been that way since she was very young.
Do you still have that anxiety?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not to the level that it was when I was a kid, because I have therapy, or I have tools now to manage it in different ways. And as the years go on, you start to learn more about managing what that is. But yeah, I mean, that's my operating system.
Now, have you figured out how to kind of channel it for good? Is that possible? If it is, please tell me. Is there a way to channel anxiety for good?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Anxiety is like, I feel so lucky to be
anxious.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think it can be sort of like a superpower sometimes. Anxiety is very activating. It gets you out of bed. You kind of can't just stay in one place. It sort of forces you to keep moving. I don't know, I find a lot of positives from it.
And it seems she's made the best of it.
You say there's nothing here, well, let's make something clear. I think I'll be the one to make that call.
What's your call?
A case in point, her performance in La La Land, for which she won an Oscar.
I still have a lot of growing and learning and work to do. And this guy is a really beautiful symbol to continue on that journey, and I am so grateful for that.
And now Stone and her latest movie are once again in the Oscar conversation. But she says she tries not to let it all get to her.
Is there a way that you get ready for it, or something that you tell yourself to navigate these waters?
No, just to try to hold everything lightly and not cling too much to any of it. And also, to not take yourself seriously through that, which I don't really struggle with. That's not really an affliction that I struggle with. Taking myself super seriously, because if you were me, you wouldn't take me seriously either. But I think you can take your work seriously and not yourself seriously.
She is serious about her partnership with Yorgos Lanthimos. They have another project in the works, and more on the way. And yes, their film may be called fantastical, but fantastic might better describe the real life of Emma Stone.
You moved out here when you were 15 years old. Is this career, this life, kind of what you were dreaming of?
Oh, it's so far beyond what I dreamt of. I feel so unbelievably grateful on a daily basis, truly. I really, really, really wanted to be on a sitcom. And I can't believe that I get to work with people that I admire and adore and trust, and have been able to play roles that are just so far beyond what I ever imagined, and it's nuts. Yeah. And I still am open for sitcoms. if you've got anything that you're thinking about.
We'll make sure we put that out there.
Okay, thank you.
Up next, an exclusive excerpt from Tracy Smith's chat with Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos. Something you can only see right here on Here Comes the Sun. Stay with us.
But I have always found what I get to do for work to be helpful.
As promised, here's more from Tracy Smith, Emma Stone, and Yorgos Lanthimos.
You were talking about how you never feel like the performance is good enough, or there, or you have it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's feeling like it's not good enough, so to speak, because that's also very subjective, which is why I like acting, because I have such I'm not saying OCD in a flippant way, I have an actual OCD issue. And so anything, when I was growing up, like anything that could be measured, I was obsessed with acing.
Like?
Tests, report cards, like anything that you can, like for instance, I played flute. You know, in band class, you have to choose an instrument, and I was terrible at flute. I can't play flute, but I was first chair because I tried to do it all exactly correctly. Yeah, it's a combination of like an anxiety and an OCD. You know, it was extremely debilitating when I was a kid. I mean, really debilitating. Like constant panic attacks. I mean, panic attacks are not something that you can go like, just look at the bright side. You're having a panic attack and it feels like the entire house is on fire and like you're about to die. You know, you can't really do that in those moments. So it depends on the level or the time period I'm going through. But I have always found what I get to do for work to be helpful.
Let's talk about the rehearsal process first, because the rehearsal process is not your standard. You get a script, you go over the script. What's your rehearsal process like?
Why don't you explain it?
Well, it's really exercises and games and theater exercises and games. And I think what we're trying to do is get everybody comfortable with each other, have the actors get to know each other, be able to have fun, try things, and make fun of each other without feeling too self-conscious. Yeah, and it's very physical.
What's an example of a game, a typical game that you would do?
I mean, the one I always talk about is like we walk around, a bunch of us, you know, one person has a chair, and then a bunch of us, the rest of us, walk around with our eyes closed. And then whenever we feel moved to, we start to sit, and the person who's holding the chair tries to get the chair under you before you fall. But because all of your eyes are closed, multiple people can be sitting at the same time, so you kind of have to choose who to save, and then some fall on the floor. I mean, all of it is very silly, but really effective in feeling, like he's saying, comfortable with each other, intimate with each other. By the time you're on set, after 2 or 3 weeks of doing things like that all day, you have a real ease, I think, amongst the cast. And also with him, because, you know, he's orchestrating these, and you sort of, I mean, Willem always says, because I'd worked with him before, obviously, but for Willem, who hadn't worked with him before, he says, you know, he could kind of get a sense of him as a director and things he finds funny and the things that he comes up with, because they're pretty improvised by you, the games. So he's sort of just making them up as we go.
It's interesting because it's fun, the rehearsal process, and you want it to be fun, but then you, Yorgos, once you get to shooting, kind of stop having fun?
I stop having fun, yeah.
What happens?
It's just very stressful for me, shooting. I mean, it is a stressful thing in general, because you have a certain amount of time each day, and you have to get things done, and, you know, what you make that day, it stays like that forever, and you rarely have the chance to go back and redo something. So that's, you know, nerve-wracking for me. So every hour of the day is just a very intense experience for me. So I think I do.
So you're miserable through that process,
So
and then
I'm
you
kind
come out of it
miserable.
again?
Yeah, and in between I have these glimpses of joy, enjoying, you know, the actors and what's happening in front of the camera. But you have fun.
I have fun the whole time.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I have to. I
Why?
can't function otherwise. I don't know. I think it closes me up to be, to lean into heaviness or that level of intensity while I'm working. Because you have to be able to be kind of like agile and go from emotional state to emotional state as an actor all throughout the day. So staying in a more kind of lighthearted, silly headspace is, I find, much more beneficial than, like carrying the weight of things. So he gets to do that, and I get to be just a dork all day, which is great.
I get to be a dork all day. That's not a bad job.
Yeah.
We need both.
Great
We
job.
need balance.
Up next, these mounds are more than meets the eye. Welcome back. No one's quite sure who built a network of geometric shapes and walls made of earth all across central Ohio, or why they were built some 2,000 years ago. But, newly designated as a World Heritage Site, these so-called piles of dirt are finally being recognized for their spiritual and historic importance. Here's Conor Knighton.
From the Grand Canyon to Machu Picchu, from the Great Barrier Reef to the Great Wall of China, many of the world's best-known sites are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The elite list is comprised of nearly 1,200 properties, with new additions voted on each year.
Congratulations to the United States of America.
But at last year's committee meeting, held in Saudi Arabia, a site in Ohio was added to the list that many Americans may not be as familiar with.
The Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks are a series of 8 gigantic earthworks built by what we call the ancient indigenous Hopewell culture between about AD 1 and 400.
So this is all happening long before bulldozers. How are they actually moving the earth?
With the simplest kinds of tools you could imagine. Pointed sticks, clamshell hoes, and baskets.
Archaeologist Brad Lepper was one of several Ohioans who worked on the UNESCO submission, hoping that an international stamp of approval might lead to a more domestic appreciation for these ancient earthworks scattered throughout central Ohio.
I grew up just a few hours away in West Virginia. I'd never heard of these. Does that surprise you?
No, I know people who've grown up in different parts of Ohio, Columbus, that have never heard of these and have never been to them. They've been neglected. And I think now that they're World Heritage Sites, I think we can start overcoming that stigma of just being piles of dirt.
That's a dismissive criticism Lepper has heard before.
The response that I use is the Newark earthworks are piles of dirt in the same way that the Parthenon is a pile of rocks.
The earthworks near Newark, Ohio, are the largest group of earthen enclosures in the world. There's a great circle and an octagon which could easily hold 4 Roman colosseums. They're believed to have been utilized by groups who traveled here from several regions. Why Ohio? Well,
we don't know. It's like having Mecca and Jerusalem, but not having the Quran and the Bible to fill in those details.
Wichita, give me raw,
John Lau is the director of the Newark Earthworks Center and is a citizen of the Pekagan Band of Potawatomi Indians.
I see this as a large powwow ground. That's what it looks like to me.
Scholars believe there was also a likely spiritual connection.
I think, frankly, that's probably the most persuasive way that you're going to get a whole bunch of people to work on a project like this, is to talk about the spiritual power of doing this.
A shared sense of belief.
Exactly.
Certain points in the octagon line up precisely with an 18.6-year lunar cycle known as a lunar standstill, in which the moon appears to pause in one place before heading in the opposite direction. It demonstrates an impressive knowledge of astronomy and architecture.
During the 19th century, there were huge debates about whether Indians could have even built these places, that we weren't sophisticated enough, smart enough, hardworking enough to do these things. And so there became all sorts of theories, aliens, Phoenicians, lost tribe of Israel.
People were so in disbelief that it could have been Native Americans that aliens were the next option?
Right.
For the past century, the Octagon Earthworks site has been leased by the Mound Builders Country Club. The area was turned into a golf course.
I usually do not even come up here because it just makes me feel excluded. It's a site that's meant for everybody. And to have a private country club stacked on top of it is depressing to me.
A Newark golf course seated on top of an indigenous American earthwork is one step closer to being evicted.
A state Supreme Court ruling in December 2022 has paved the way for the Ohio History Connection to buy out the value of the lease. Several of the earthworks, including some burial mounds, are protected as part of Hopewell Culture National Historical Park. The UNESCO recognition doesn't change anything legally, but it might inspire more visitation.
Now people will have to accept that, okay, somebody thinks they're really important. Why?
Visitors to the earthworks may not get the same picture postcard experience they might at a Stonehenge or Versailles. But for Brad Lepper, that's part of the allure.
Here, there's no single place you can stand to capture it all. You have to immerse yourself in it and walk through it to experience the grandeur.
I'm Lee Cowan. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right here next time on Here Comes the Sun.